Certainly, and it's a very horrendous thing that the whole nation beheld, when that video of the beheading was viral. And one of the things that's really, by the way, I just couldn't see the video.
No, I don't watch things like that either.
I just know that, people are talking about it.
I have a very photographic memory, so.
Same thing with me. So, yeah. It's, so the very idea of those things trending without a national outrage is what I find the most troubling, because it seems to me that we are getting desensitized. These things are beginning to turn to normal, and that's very dangerous for any people, for any community, for any society, to get to the point where such, horrendous acts, gruesome killings, don't spark a national outrage. We're supposed to have a national outrage, as if the world is coming to an end when you see, the fact that somebody is even being butchered, So that's very worrying. And what it means is that the way that we have managed this question of insecurity over a decade now is clearly below par. And we're not trying to sound political or, trying just to be judgmental or critical. Our leaders have failed us. They have failed us in a very tremendous, in a very significant way. And you hope and expect that they understand this. We don't even have the kind of communication from among our political elites that they understand the depth of that failure from their own part. And this is not to say that there aren't, serious problems that go beyond, one administration or the other. There are very deep-seated systemic problems. But the challenge is that is the whole reason why there is a government. That's why we have elections every 4 years, as a matter of fact, for people to go and fix the problems. Okay? If we can sort it out without having a government, we'll probably do it. So when we give people the authority and the power, the responsibility to be president or to be governor, or when people are appointed to be security chiefs, military chiefs, police chiefs, and all of those stuff, intelligence agencies, it is because we want them to solve this problem. So we ought to have a national sense of humiliation that man who was just a teacher was butchered and slaughtered like a ram. We need to have a national, a sense of humiliation, because that could have been anybody. The man was an innocent teacher, and they just killed him like that. Now, the next thing is that, so when we say that our leaders are not urgent, for instance, on the issue of state police, this administration, which has shown interest in state police like no other one, and hey, relatively, we must give them the credit. But they have not been bullish about it. And I'm talking particularly about the president. He's picking up, no doubt about that. In the last several weeks, he has talked about it. But it's not good enough, Mr. President. Your sense of urgency is still below par when you compare the horrendous situation that we are dealing with. This is not something that you just issue a statement. Have you called the Senate President and the Speaker of the House that we need to do this quickly? Have you spoken to all your governors in the state? If it requires us to amend the Constitution, we need to do this speedily to at least start state police, which is an option that everybody seems to agree can help the problem.
It's interesting.
We haven't seen that urgency.
You mentioned this, because I do know that the papers on Monday, shortly after that abduction happened, that was what was on the front pages of all of the papers, that state police is now being considered even more seriously as an option to, put an end or at least curb significantly this abductions. And just while, all of this is being considered, we had a conversation with former OPC leader, the new Areon Okankamfo, who was warning that, there are signs already, and that he had been raising an alarm, but it seems that there's been a reluctance to engage with groups like his, you know, or even to engage with someone like him, who used to have, I don't know whether he still has it, big questions as to that, a huge influence in the grassroots, especially within grassroots security networks.
Right.
Because people believe that if we have things like that, grassroots security, because some people actually think that what we need is not state police. What we need is community police. They believe that there is a marked difference, that you do not want any police that is just situated in the capital of a state. But a policing system that is, you know, what I say, community-based, and it is, you know, hosted and resides primarily within the community. I don't know what your thoughts are with regards to this, because when all of these distinctions are being made, are you afraid that somewhere in the hurry to provide solutions, we might actually miss the mark in what we eventually execute?
All right, so state police as a concept is not antithetical to community policing. So community policing is just the basic, you know, global best practice kind of policing that the people in the community must be, they must have the buy-in. The police must come from the community because, you know, so it's their community. That's the whole idea of community policing. And so that itself ought to be the hallmark of any kind of policing, whether it is federal or state. It must be community-based. You know, don't bring, and that's the problem with the federal police structure alone that we have. Don't bring somebody from Ondo State to go and police in Sokoto, or bring somebody from Borno to go and police in Imo. No, let the people from that community be the ones running it. So we should do that alongside state police. And I agree that we should try as much as possible to decentralize, because the idea of state police is essentially decentralizing from the federal to the state. But we must also, even in the state, decentralize further down and let each community, in a very legal way, in a very proper way, be responsible for their own security. Let them be able to carry the arms that they need to in a structured form, you know. So, yes, we should do community policing. We need community policing, but it's not against state police.
Well, yesterday, I believe that even without this community policing coming up, we see that communities are active, they are vigilant. Yesterday, the NDLEA announced a major breakthrough, the dismantling of an international cartel which was producing methamphetamine in Ogun State, I think the Jebu East local government area. The amount of drugs they found there, they said the street value is worth about 480 billion. I wish that our producer would put up the visuals, I mean, for our viewers so that they can see just what was found. This factory which you're looking at is located deep inside a forest in that particular local government area. And I'm sure that it must have taken some courage even for the people of that place to be able to tell the authorities that something like this was happening there. And it certainly has a link with what we're currently experiencing with terrorism, with insurgency, with abductions. How did we become this lax? Because look at this. They have proper fences. They have, you know, it's very well built. And it would seem that we didn't ask a lot of questions. I'm wondering, was there government approval? Was government aware? What exactly did they think these people were going to be doing? Did they have a way of keeping an eye on them, particularly since foreigners were also involved? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we don't know how long this has been going on, but it was clearly very shocking, you know, when Brigadier General Marwa came himself to announced this, you know, a few days ago. Very, very shocking. I imagine that they must have been operating under fraudulent impressions that this is a normal business or normal farming that is going on there, you know. And so we have to commend the NDLA under, you know, Mr. Marwa, who's been doing an excellent job. I mean, I think by far in this country is one of them. He must rank very, very high, you know, among public officials who know their job and who are committed to doing it and delivering. We must always say that of General Marwa. We must always say that. Now, but having who said that, part of the problem that we had as a people is that something has happened to us, in terms of the decline of our moral values, whereby you have, a lot of our communities, and you see this a lot in the north. Now we are seeing that it's even happening in the south, where the people, because of the abandonment of government, because of the absence of governance, because the local government have been completely, totally, removed and decapacitated at that level. People have had to become, trying to sort out themselves in a way that compromise the general interest of their communities. Because this happened in this place, certainly it is not without the knowledge of key players in that community. They couldn't have been operating on something this large scale without some form of people in the community that is facilitating it. I mean, I think you made the point earlier in today's program, Markwe, that it's not only that some people supported them, it must also have been the fact that some other people also exposed them, which is the glimmer of hope. But we have to take the idea of local government, getting the capacity to be able to deliver much more seriously. Again, is in a direction in which this president has moved in the right way to say that, look, let the money go to them. But it has to be deeper. The problems that we are dealing with does not only take a resolute, or put it differently, it does not only take somebody who will say the right things, but it takes us to have systems and people, supporting teams around us to make those things happen. I've served in the presidency, and I know that the president at any time might want to do a number of things. If his team doesn't have the capacity, if the civil service is not able to deliver, you will see a lot of lag time. And my point is that, so we have to talk to ourselves, right from the leadership all through the system, that look, the situation of our country is becoming more dire, and all of us must begin to rethink how to change that trajectory.
I believe Ayo will chip in one question at least. Ayo.
Thank you, Markwe. I think one of the difficult challenges that people have to contend with now, Mr. Akande, is the choice of who to choose, for in the next, general election. We just spoke with someone a little while ago, and you, of course, heard everything that the man himself had to say. The question that I would want to ask you now is, how do we help people to begin to get this kind of persuasion or perception of choice? You have pretty much spoken about governance issues right now, Mr. Akande. But at the end of the day, people are only at the end of the food chain, never, hardly ever at the beginning of it. And people, not everyone is a member of a political party to determine who is thrown up, who will be able to deliver what we call the dividends of democracy, true service to the people. Where do you think we can place the people now that they have begun to choose the candidates to be fielded for the elections?
Thank you so much, Ayo, for that question. So we are currently in a place in our country today where the level of poverty, that dominates a huge majority of our population, has turned poverty into a weapon, okay, that is used for the most part by politicians, against the common good. That's a major problem. So you don't see the involvement, the engagement of the more critical as part of the society. Who are the people that even go out to do this voting? Who are the people, Ayo, with due respect to them, just like you said, they are just the people who think that, okay, look, let me go and do it because of this and because of that, take care of myself, get something in the interim to survive on. That is how much ruination that has happened to our people, the people that we are supposed to be serving, the people whose life we are supposed to transform. We have reduced them to nothing. Not be transformative because they don't know any better than where they are by their station in life for the most part. And the kind of I don't know whether to call it an isolation or the self-isolation of the middle class, you know, the people who can actually have who have an outlook, a better outlook. They are not very involved. Not to even talk of the elites. They're not involved in all of these processes. That's the problem. And there is a second problem that therefore because of that, our political elites, those who call the shots, they don't often, not that they don't at all, they don't often push forward people that can change situations. They push somebody there. It's a token, you know, I like your face, you know, I'll be able to control you when I'm out of power. That's how they dole out the people who get to go to run for governor, run for house, run for senate and stuff like that, or even appointed, you know, for the most part. There are good cases. We've talked about what is happening in Lagos APC, excellent process, wonderful choice. But for the most part in this country, you see that we have a process that is producing, you know, people who don't have capacity, no competence, questionable character. And that is why we are where we are. And this is what we need to call attention to, that as we are going again, you know, let's talk to ourselves as a people, especially the middle class, the elite. Let's get involved in this process because it's the only way for us to change it.
It would have been interesting to ask, you know, what exactly was the difference under the military era versus now that we're in a democracy in terms of the involvement of the middle class and the elite in some of the struggles. But
the military caused the problem.
We don't have time.
but it's going to say that.
Yeah.
The military caused this problem by and large. Very important. They caused it by and large.
Well, we always wish we had a little more time with you, Mr. Laolu Akande. He is the presenter of Channels Television's Inside Sources, which you can catch tomorrow. That's Friday. What time? 1 p.m., right? 11:30 a.m. And on Sunday as well at 6 p.m. So keep a date with him. He's also a former presidential aide. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Well, that's where we wrap up this beautiful Thursday morning. Thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makine. Let's do some business on the hour. Have a wonderful rest of your day.